Hi guys, my name is Borro Dante, and welcome back to the cheating tutorial / Black Widow painting process. So this is what we ended up with in the previous episode while working on our 3D sketch for a painting. Here's the camera view, and I actually did a little bit of extra work after I finished the episode. After that, I actually added a light source right here. As you can see, there's a spotlight, so you can see we have like a moonlight hitting through the window. And on top of that, I actually turned on air perspective. Like right now we have fog, which is a pretty easy thing to do. In Blender, you just go to the world settings, and in volume, you just choose a volume shader, like principled volume right here, and small density. If we increase that, we'll have a lot more fog going on. So it's that easy to do. A rare thing to have in a 3D program where you can actually easily turn on actual volumetric fog. So that's cool. And to add another thing, I decided to play around a little bit with the whole artistic air perspective solutions. I also created a special thing. Yeah, there we go. This is it. So it's like fog plates. These are very slim, like pancakes like that, with super sharp edges. Like they go really slim at the very edges, and I applied a volumetric shader to them without any surface shaders. So what it means is that when we render it, it creates like a spot of fog behind whatever we need to add some kind of highlight. That's something you do in a painting, and you never see that happening in a 3D. So I decided to give it a try and to actually make it work. Kind of an interesting thing. You can see how, especially on the Black Widow, we really see her silhouette better, and it looks much more artistic with that applied. I don't know, like, I don't really like it in here, for instance, because it actually lowers the contrast of that kid. Now that's even worse. So I'd probably remove this one at all. And a few of them are actually to highlight the edge of the doorway that we're looking through. So it's gonna make a bit of a better contrast over there. You can see it actually looks much more like a painting when you just add that. So a pretty interesting thing to add to the sketch like that. So as you can see, we're going with realistic lighting and adding volumetrics. So we're trying to achieve as much of a closer base color as possible, so we wouldn't have to actually repaint everything. Maybe we'll slightly color correct something or add like a major overall change of brightness or something, but the less we'll need to change when we switch to actual painting, the better, because otherwise it kind of defeats the purpose. So yeah, that said, let's actually get back to modeling this room. I hope that today we will finish the actual 3D layout of the room with all the kids in their places. At least we'll play around with their positions, and we'll have like the release candidate of what everything should look like. And speaking of all of that, the main feedback you guys gave me was about this door. It's like a super modern door. Literally, like, I don't know what I was thinking. Obviously, it doesn't look right. Even like something you haven't mentioned is that handles like that's only modern handles. Even if the window would be opening like this, which is actually a common thing, the handles aren't there usually, aren't they? They don't really even have handles. Thing is, I don't know what I'm talking about, so we'll look up references. And the main thing about it is that the window will probably be very tall, pretty much almost completely reaching the ceiling. As some of you explained, back in the day when there was no like lights in the room except for candles, they made these windows as tall as possible so they would introduce as much sunlight into the room as possible. So that totally makes sense, and I think it will work out also really well, considering that we'll add that moonlight. It will be much more of that in this room, so we'll see what it looks like and then balance out the brightness, the difference of brightnesses of this light and the moonlight. That's up to us to decide what's gonna be brighter and what's gonna be darker, so that will be cool to see how it works out. But for now, let's actually look up some references and change this window. So yeah, we have several options, either a round top thing or something like that, a bit more cornery, or it can be actually square at the top as well. But I feel like this is like actually really cool, so maybe we'll do this. One thing that's actually a common feature for most of these windows, especially when they get big enough, is that they have a lot of cross sections like that, like a lot of little pieces of glass with a lot of frame in between of them. That will influence the shadow a lot, and it will just look much more detailed. so let's definitely do that. And the window generally may be really big. I'm not sure if we need to make it wider. It's already quite wide. But yeah, taller for sure. And I don't think this stuff can be opened, though. And that's not necessary at all in any case, so whatever. I mean, we can just use this kind of window and break some glass in it. Since this is an old, abandoned kind of place that became some kind of a twisted shelter or twisted orphanage for these kids and the Black Widow, it totally makes sense to break some glass, right? So yeah, let's do that. Alright, so this is what we're getting now. Decided to move the chandelier a bit upwards so it wouldn't obstruct. Like there was a lot of stuff squished into one area. We'll probably add curtains as well, so it'll be a bit of a mess. So it's best to have the bright chandelier away from the presumably brightly lit curtains, so I moved it away. I'm thinking, looking at the reference, we can make the room even taller. Then the chandelier at this height will totally make sense and we'll still get the darker ceiling and everything. So 5 meters actually makes sense for the height of a room like that. Or maybe a little bit lower, right? So it would look better in here in the actual final picture. Yeah, I like that. I want to make the window even taller, right? It makes more sense to make it even taller. Something like this tall. It will look pretty cool. But I want to move the chandelier away in the composition, so we'll probably move it closer to being like right over the head of the widow. I think it will look even cooler. Lighting-wise, she would have interesting shadows on her face. That will look really cool. And now we're free to do whatever we want with the window. Awesome. Now this actually looks like an old times window. That looks really cool. And we have so much more space on the walls now to introduce more kids that are crawling on the walls. That'll work nicely, if that's the right word. Alright, so I'm thinking we should probably add the curtains, and after that all we have to do is to move around the kids and actually prepare the rendering, the lights and the colors. Oh, also someone said that Victorian chairs should be taller. This looks very modern. Also, I know that this kind of hole is not really an old-time chair. It looks very modern. We're not gonna actually paint it like this. It's just a geometry guide. Well, at least that. Maybe even overall make them taller, right? Nah, that makes no sense if the seating area would be taller than the knee level of a human. So yeah, I guess even like this, it already looks much more like an old school chairs. And why not make this painting a bit taller? They don't have to be all the same. Alright. Forgot to move the light source with the chandelier. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. Look at that dark, ominous ceiling. Really cool. Alright, I think the curtains are good enough. I actually did much more work than we need. We really need just the guidance for the perspective, but the actual natural flow of it and everything, that's the easy part to do in the actual painting, so whatever. So now let's start cloning kids. One thing I thought about though, they're all gonna have palms and forearms black, same as bottom halves of their legs as well. And the faces, pretty much the whole head is gonna be black as well. And the rest of the body is mostly white. That's how we decided on the design of the kids when we were working on this. So before I start cloning a lot of them, I should probably set up the materials to already have all of them with black arms and legs and white torsos. So let's go ahead and do that and then start cloning. Alright, looking good. Maybe it's a good idea to make the shoes, the feet. Or probably not, they will definitely be barefoot, so whatever. Yeah, this is definitely good enough, I think. Alright, so this is kind of looking hilarious right now, just because they're all just sitting no matter where they are. I'm kind of puzzled a little bit right now because it seems to be not that easy to just copy a whole set of objects in here. Like, if I select one object and duplicate, it will be just one, obviously. Now, the next thing you think about is you select the collection where these objects are and you duplicate that, but that won't actually create new objects. It just duplicates the collection of the same objects. One object can be in many collections, so copying the collection just copies the name of an object in the list, but not actually creating a copy of an object. So that is a bummer. And so to solve that, I created one more collection right here in the center of the world. There he is. And I'm just working with a whole bunch of instances of this one kid. And thing about instances is that it's not an actual copy, like not a fully standalone object. Which means if I edit one dude, they all gonna change the same way. And that's a problem to be able to create unique poses for each and one of these guys. Now, what I was hoping for when I was doing this, like I knew what instance is and everything, but this is an easy way to copy a collection of these objects and position it. But then I'm hoping I'll be able to kind of like convert it from being an instance to being a standalone group of objects again, each and one of them. So really hoping that's possible. Otherwise, it's just we're gonna have to redo this, and it's gonna be a bit of a bummer to do because it's really uneasy to copy things. But yeah, so far so good. I don't know. This is what we have anyway. Okay, hi, this is Boro from the future. I'm editing this episode right now and just wanted to give you guys a little update on how I'm solving the issue with the instances. Haven't really found a way to convert an instance into a full copy, so instead I decided that I was kind of approaching the whole thing a bit wrong, meaning I was trying to make sure that I create a bunch of copies of the kids with all of their body parts and have each set of these in a separate dedicated collection like these. one copy of a kid, all of their body parts in one collection, another copy of a kid in another collection. But really, I don't actually need that, right? So I can just copy all the objects by pressing Shift D and moving them around and creating a bunch of copies as they are, which is not new to me. I knew how to do that, but the problem was that they all will, like all these body parts, the original one and all the new ones, they will all be inside of this one collection. So I just call it the collection Kids instead of Kid 1, Kid 2, Kid 3. And yeah, they're all gonna be in one collection, but who cares? I don't actually need it at all. If I will ever need it in the future, I'll just select every 006 body part or something. I don't know how to easily do that, but can't imagine that to be necessary anyway. So all the kids' body parts will be in this kids collection, and I will be moving around the pelvises to get the poses and everything. And this is the fully live copies that can have different poses, so that'll work out. And yeah, so I'll make all the copies, I'll position them and do proper unique poses for each copy, and I'll try to more or less finalize the 3D scene we have here by the next episode, so you'll see what that'll look like soon enough. Okay, so back to my past self. And if we ignore the fact that they're all in the same poses, we can kind of take a look at what we're getting here. So yeah, this looks rather creepy. For now, I'm gonna keep it like this, with this epic part right here. And we'll do pretty much everything else we can do here. So first of all, we'll position the Black Widow into a more, well, realistic pose, I must say. And then, yeah, maybe apply some materials to her and see what the rendering is turning out to be, and maybe adjust some of the rendering settings to get closer to the final look. Because in the next episode, we're definitely at least going to start using the rendering of this in the actual painting process, because it's time to do that. So yeah, let's go all over the place and see how things will work out, starting with just Black Widow, her materials and the pose. Alright, I think I made these curtains semi-transparent, although they are kinda dark. So anyway, I set up the materials and some pose like that. I really like how the Widow is in such a broken pose, like she's either so messed up that she doesn't care anymore, or like she's in some kind of state that she's not here. So this is really interesting pose and interesting character this way, like she is very powerful in this situation, and at the same time she's kind of messed up and you don't know what she's gonna do next. One thing I want to check as well is maybe we should make the camera a lot lower, like if it's actually really close to the floor. Oh my god, that is so freaky. Like, to highlight her dominance and the whole situation, like it's actually pressing at us. Like at this angle, it's much more creepy and weird. And it kind of dictates a story that maybe the character through whose eyes we're looking at this, maybe they fell down on the floor and like crawling backwards and panic or something like that. Or maybe it's another kid that is welcome to join them or something like that. Like, I don't know, but in any case, this is a good idea and a good usage of the whole 3D factor that we're using here, like a more of a complex angle of the camera. So yeah, we'll do this most definitely, like we should lower the camera for sure. How much is the question, and specifically find a better angle. We can play with this all we want, something like this, and then we'll reposition some of the stuff around maybe, and especially especially the kids, like this kid will be slightly in a different place, maybe much closer to the camera actually. That will be cool. It's actually much closer to what we had in the sketch originally. So something like this. You can see this kid is really close, and now it has a bit of a different context to it, and it's really creepy. Not just creepy, it's actually scary now. So yeah, some of you in the comments actually said that it would be cool if all the kids would be looking at us, except for the widow, because she's like much more powerful and much more in control of the situation, that she doesn't even have to bother about us. That's a good context, the good body language, gesture language. So that will work out pretty awesomely. So yeah, I'll pretty much finalize this scene, and I'll try to solve the situation with the instances of one kid being all in the same pose. I'll look it up, but pretty much I think we're done here. You maybe notice I actually added another light source, like aside from an Omni light source, the point light source that's lighting up the whole room evenly. There's also this cone, the spotlight, that is lighting up the widow specifically, so she would be brighter. I did that because no chandelier has a perfectly even spread of light, and many of them actually light up the bottom stronger. In any case, maybe it's not exactly the way chandeliers worked in the Victorian time or whatever, but I still want to have that because I want to highlight the widow much more. She should be brighter than everything else. She should have a really pale, like Snow White face. I think it will work out pretty well. So yeah, aside from that, you guys tell me what you think about what we're getting here. We'll be applying more materials or like more basic colors to the rest of the room to have a proper ambience and proper base color in the next episode, when we'll actually probably start also painting. The next video on the channel will be about this. And I thank you for watching. If you did, I guess I did. If you're here, leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Search for an angle. Do whatever you want. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! What an unexpected issue with the poses of the kids. With these colors and the same poses, they kind of look like some kind of 90s music video. Like Beastie Boys going,